now like to invite Shri V. Balachandran, and I'll just introduce him briefly. He was an MA from Loyola College, Chennai. He was in the Indian Police Service in 1959 and in the Maharashtra cadre of IPS. He joined the Cabinet Secretariat as the minister in the Embassy of India in Washington, D.C., and he retired as the Special Secretary of the Cabinet Secretariat in 1995, and today he is the President of the Indo-American Society, and he writes on current subjects in the mainstream newspapers today, and we are extremely honored that you're here with us. And he's also writing an article for this book, which will come out shortly in the next few days in the Asian Age, so please look out for it.
Dr. Saril Joshi and distinguished members of the panel, let me caution you that I'm not a philosopher, I'm not a historian, I'm a policeman come bureaucrat. So if my presentation is not up to the mark, please do excuse me. I shall try to tackle this particular problem from a different angle. Last month, we received a delegation of the White House Fellows. As you know, White House Fellows are the future leaders of the United States. General Colin Powell was a White House Fellow. They are picked up from different walks of life, including the government, private sector and all that, and then given an intensive training for 1 year. There is a White House Fellows Commission. I gave a presentation to them about the history of Indo-American relations. So that particular research that I did came very handy while giving this brief introduction. Dr. Krishnan made a brief mention about this misunderstanding about India had affected the US foreign policy. I shall give some more details about it. In 1976, Asia Society conducted a survey of the textbooks in American schools. They appointed 103 experts who reviewed 306 books used in 50 states. And the result was that India received the most negative attention in all the textbooks of all the Asian states. So another scholar called John W. Miller, author of India, A Rising Middle Power, he said that US policy towards India was the product of similar stereotypes. The portrayal was that it is nothing but diseases, illiteracy, etc., etc. And India was portrayed as poverty-stricken and helpless, since American legislators and decision-makers were subject to the same impressions. And I'll quote another survey done by the US State Department, Bureau of Educational and Cultural Affairs in 1982. They found that American attitudes about India, more than about any other place, focus on disease, death and illiteracy. So the subject of this particular book today, looking from a different perspective of government policy, has an important bearing. I was minister in the Indian Embassy, Washington, for nearly 4 years. I had very close interaction with the Indian families all over the United States. I could find that the children are totally confused because of this very wrong picture about, now of course today we were given only an example of what happens in the universities. But if you really go into the textbooks, it is still worse. They are very confused. They do not publicly acknowledge that they belong to a religion, Hindu religion. So if these are the future generations, the first or second generation Americans, Indian Americans who are growing up in the United States, so they start with a complex. I'll quote another scholar, Yvette Rosa. In fact, her article is there in this book. She had written in 2001. Stereotypes, she had written an internet article in Winter 2001, Teaching South Asia, an Internet Journal of Pedagogy. Stereotypes about India and Hinduism, when taught as fact in American classrooms, may negatively impact students of South Asian origin who are struggling to work out their identity in a multicultural, predominantly Anglo-Christian environment. Now this, in a nutshell, is the problem that we are facing now. Much of the book it's a brilliant article, I must say. I must really compliment all of them, Mr. Malhotra and all, Dr. Krishnan and all of this for bringing out this book. But it is my submission that something more needs to be done. It's not just enough that we indulge in a debate at the very scholastic level. Something more needs to be done to change the outlook. How is it that after 1990, the US business attitude towards India, the government attitudes in India has undergone a sea change? Why is it that it's not there in the universities? And when they can dish out this type of nonsense about our religion, it is something more needs to be done. Now, at this juncture, I may also support what Mr. Malhotra had said this, that there is a very prosperous Indian community there. I'll just read out some statistics. The annual buying power of Indian Americans is $20 billion annually. There are 1,000 Indian American organizations. I know most of these top leaders of the Indian organizations there. Asian American Hotel Owners Association, there are 4,000 members. They own 12,500 hotels in the United States. Total market value is 31 billion. Mr. Malhotra had said that our Indian American leadership, they are content in building temples, but leaving this type of things to the tender mercies of the so-called experts in the different universities. Now, can't we marshal the strength of the Indian Americans and do some sort of an action? I'll quote one example, how a concerted move through the legal system was able to turn the tide in California. In 2005, the Christian, Hindu, Jewish and Muslim groups complained to the California State Board of Education that their religions were negatively portrayed in some textbooks. The board was in a mood to make the changes proposed by the Hindu groups. This I owe this particular information to Dr. Krishnan. But they reversed the stand when Professor Bitzel, a Harvard Sanskrit professor, due to certain motivated reasons, wrote to them saying that no change is required. As a result of this, the Hindu groups took the California Board of Education to the court, and in 2006 they won the case, and the part of the expenses are to be paid by the California Board of Education to the litigants. Unfortunately, their second demand that the textbooks should be scrapped was not accepted, but in this year, the consultation with the affected people has already started from March onwards. Now, whenever you see such a thing, whenever you see such a distortion of the religion, of our culture, the Indian Association should take it up with the law courts. Now, in this respect, I may again quote one example of the Jewish groups. The Jewish groups are also subjected to such discrimination and total distortion of the history, of the culture and everything. So finally, the organization called B'nai B'rith set up what is called Anti-Defamation League. And they started, there is a website, some of the top people I know them very well. There is a director of international relations called Daniel Mariashan, who has got an Indian wife. They do a proactive, agitation. When it comes to a question of when the Jewish religion is portrayed badly, they take recourse to the writing the media. They confront the people concerned. They go to the court, and if it fails, they go into direct action like demonstrations. Now, from the website, one could see that in 2006, there were 1,554 incidents involving the religion. and it was down by 12%. And they keep an audit of all these incidents. So my submission to the Indian Americans in USA is that they should emulate this example. They have become assertive, they are financially powerful. If this type of negative portrayals are done, they should emulate the example of Anti-Defamation League. And they attack the anti-Semitism on the campus. We should also do that. Otherwise, this particular book is a trendsetter, is one of the good beginnings, but I think something more needs to be done. That's all my. Thank you.